kind of at a global level and like what's physically happening around you right now. And in order to do that, I think that glasses are going to be the ideal form factor because they're positioned on your face in a way where they can let them see what you see and hear what you hear, which are the two most important senses that we use for kind of taking in information and context about the world. I think that this is all going to be kind of really deep and profound stuff. But it's basically those two things. It's this feeling of presence and this capability of really personalized intelligence that can help you.
I'd love to talk about each of those two things.
Mm-hmm.
The first on presence, I owe a lot to being able to connect with people online, right? This job that I have is by definition.
Yeah.
Also with my family. My parents don't live anywhere close to me.
Mm-hmm.
I video call them a lot. And when I think about the progress of technology like this, in a timeline from like the telegram to the telephone to video call to some feeling of presence with another person who feels like they're right there in front of me.
Yeah.
That makes me feel incredibly optimistic. I would love a future where like I can lose in Scrabble to my mom and feel like she's really there in front of me.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're not that far away from something
I agree.
that persuades my brain that that's happening.
Yeah, totally.
And also, I miss hugging my mom, right? Like that never goes away.
Yeah, haptics is hard.
Yeah.
But
and so my question is about that. It's about this feeling of like, it's hard for me to imagine a future where real physical presence is not different and special in some way, where I don't miss literally hugging my mom.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you think about the parts of human connection that are eye contact and physical touch and things that our ape brains value for connection with other people.
Yeah, well, eye contact I think we're going to get to a lot before the touch part. For haptics, I do think we'll make progress on that, but it's obviously, there's a spectrum there too, from kind of hands, which is where if you draw out the kind of like homunculus version of a person in terms of like what are our kind of sensory, what's like the majority of what we're sensing.
Yeah,
it's like it's hand. Yeah. So I think being able to do that for your hands is probably the most important place to start. And you have a rough version of that with controllers today. I think that'll get even more over time. We have this demo playing ping pong where you have a controller where as the digital ball hits the ping pong paddle, you feel it hit as if it's hitting the ping pong paddle wherever it is. So you actually have a sense of like where it's hitting the paddle. So I think that was just a wild demo. So I think we'll get some of that. The most extreme version of this is wanting force feedback, right? So I mean, like for doing a lot of sports, right? It's like, okay, we can kind of do a good approximation of like boxing today, where you get like good feedback on your hands, but it would be hard to do a virtual reality version of jiu-jitsu where you're like grappling with someone and you need like real kind of force feedback on that. So that's probably like the hardest thing, right, to go do. But I think we'll get there. I think like most science fiction, it's not this binary thing that you just like wake up one day and we're like, oh, we've realized all the dreams. But I do think that these platforms are going to be the first time that I think that there's a realistic sense of presence in all the ways that that's special to people for most things that people want to do, which are not the most physical ones. And even some of the basic physical ones I think we'll get. But then there's a long tail of other stuff. I mean, smell is also really important for people.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's disproportionately important for memories. And that's not really a thing that I think in the next few years we're going to have in any of these devices. I mean, that's a very difficult and challenging thing on its own.
What is the piece of that you feel most interested in, that you keep coming back to in your mind?
This has the frustrating property to develop that the sense of presence is almost like when you're designing something that's sort of trying to artificially deliver it, you're delivering an illusion to a person. And more than any one thing that provides a sense of presence, it's actually more the case that any one thing done wrong breaks the sense of presence. You kind of know that you're interacting with technology, but it's so convincing that that you just kind of go along with it. And you're like, okay, yeah, no, this person feel like they're there, right? When I did that ping pong demo, I like at the end of it, I dropped the ping pong paddle on the virtual table and it shattered. So that was not the best for our internal development, but like that's winning in our development, right? It's like when you feel like something is kind of so realistic that you're just convinced that that it's there. Now, and there are a lot of things that can break that, right? So I think a field of view that's too low, right? So something feels real, but then you turn your head and it's not there. Latency, right? Physics that don't behave like realistic physics. It also is interesting in some ways what people can accept as physically real, even though it's not, right? So, like, we've done a ton of work on avatars. We have this whole work stream on codec avatars to do these photorealistic avatars, and I think it's going to be incredibly compelling, and people are going to love it. But one of the things that I found interesting is the ability to mix photorealistic and expressive, kind of the cartoony avatars, with photorealistic worlds and kind of more cartoony computer game type worlds. So you can have a codec kind of photorealistic avatar of a person in what is clearly like a video game or cartoon world, and people are generally pretty fine with that. It's like, okay, that feels pretty good. And similarly, having a photorealistic world, but good, increasingly good kind of cartoon avatars, as long as the avatars move in a way that feels authentic to the person you're interacting with, it actually feels pretty good. You know, it's when you look at a 2D still frame of it, some of the stuff can look a little bit silly, and we've certainly had our share of memes around that. But when you're in there, you know, and you've played around with a lot of the stuff, it feels realistic because it's basically mimicking the kind of authentic mannerisms of a person that you're interacting with.
Yeah.
And even if it's not a codec photorealistic avatar, if it's kind of a more cartoony, expressive one. So I think that's it's very interesting to see kind of which pieces you need to unlock and where you just need to be like very technically excellent and consistent. But it's this isn't a space where it's like you deliver one thing and it's good. This is like there's a wide breadth of things that you need to nail and then have it all come together. And that's why these are, 10-year projects.
It seems like an interesting way to learn about the human brain and what we actually care about with respect to what feels real. I was wondering there was this moment in an interview that you did with Lex Friedman. You quoted research that says that the average American has fewer friends now than they did 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was so interested in that because it seems like if we want to get to a world where there's more human connection, this is the trend that we're going to have to grapple with. And just to give some data on this, in the American Time Use Survey, over the last 20 years, the amount of time American adults spend socializing in person has dropped by nearly 30%. For ages 15 to 24, according to the Surgeon General, it's nearly 70%. And I look at that data and I think to myself, well, maybe if we're all socializing digitally, that doesn't matter so much. Maybe there's a future where that's actually fine. But there's also data that suggests that we're struggling somewhat. The number of Americans who say that they don't have a single close friend.
Yeah.
That share has jumped
really
from 3% to 12% in the last 30 years. It feels to me like with all the tools that we've built for human connection, we're struggling to connect. And I'm curious, why do you think that's happening?
I mean, there's a lot going on to unpack there. A lot has changed sort of economically and socially during that period, and a lot of those trends go back before a lot of the modern technology. So I mean, this is something that a lot of academics and folks have studied, but it is an interesting lens to look at this, though, because I think whenever you're talking about building digital types of connection, one of the first questions that you get is that going to replace the physical connection? And my answer to that, especially in the case of something like this, is that no, because people already don't have as much connection as they would like to have. It's not like this is replacing some sort of better physical connection that they would have otherwise had. It's that the average person would like to have 10 friends and they have 2, right? Or 3. And there's just more demand to socialize than what people are able to do given the current construct, and giving people the ability to be present with people who are in other places physically just seems like it will unlock more. It's not going to make it so, if I have glasses, it's not going to make it that I spend less time with my wife. It's going to make it so that I spend more time with, my sister who lives across the country. And I think that's good. And I think people need that. As for the rest, I think we could probably spend a multi-hour podcast just going into all of the different kind of socio-economic, political dynamics that are going on. But none of the trends that I've seen does it seem like the primary thing that's going on is that because people are interacting online, they're now not interacting with people physically. It's now certainly I think I do interact with people online who I also like to interact with physically, and I think that's kind of like a combination, like more combined, richer relationship that you have overall. But I think that there's a lot going on with the loss of kind of social capital and connections that really predates a lot of the modern technology.